example that uses two nested loops. The program requirements of the example are defined up here. So at first, the program should show a menu with 4 options. The first 3 options are menu choices. The last option, 0, is entered to exit the program. The program then should repeatedly validate the input until one of those 4 options are entered. Then the program can respond to these inputs and provide the menu choices back to the user. And then the last thing is that we want to repeat the program over and over until 0 is entered. Now let's start out by tackling the first requirement, showing a menu and reading in that option. For that, I declare a variable and I initialize it to a new scanner object that listens to system.in. Then I output the menu. And for that, I'm just going to copy the menu from the requirements up here. This is the menu that the user can choose. Now next, I output a prompt, enter a choice, where the user can then enter what he would like to order. The choice I read into a variable named choice, and I use the scanner next int method to read in the next integer. Now I have the choice that was entered. Now this can be any of these 4 choices, or it can be an invalid choice that is not listed here. Now we could use an if statement, but if statement would only validate it once. And so it wouldn't completely validate the input because the second time it would not check anymore. So I will use a while loop. And I want to repeat prompting the user for an input if the choice did not match any of these 4 options. So if choice is not 1 and the choice is not 2 and the choice is not 3 and the choice is also not 0. If it's none of these 4 choices, I output a message, invalid choice, enter a valid choice. And then I use the scanner int method to read the next integer in again. Now, after this is read in again, since it's a while loop, it would validate it again over and over until one of these choices has been entered. Once we have a valid choice, the program should respond to it. In this case, I will just use a switch statement. Now we could also use an if statement. There are many different ways of writing the same program, but a switch statement here makes sense too, because these are literal values. We don't compare any ranges, anything that is above a value. We really just check, is it 1, 2, 3, or 0. So the first case here is 1. And if 1 was ordered, I'd simply output, here is your salad. And I don't want to fall through to the next case, so I use a break statement. And then I do the same with a second choice. So if option 2 was entered, here is your sandwich. Also, I'm done with the case. I don't want to fall through, so I use a break statement. Then case 3. Case 3 is the last option. So here is your pizza. And I also use a break statement. I wouldn't really need it here. I don't have any more cases, but it's always a good habit to just add it to each case if we don't want to fall through to the next one. There's option 4. I could add a default case or a case 0 for this here and say goodbye. But what I will do instead, just at the very end of the program, I output a goodbye. So this is the program so far. We tackled the first requirement of providing a menu and reading in the choice. Then we have the second one already tackled, which is validating repeatedly in the loop, and then here responding back to what was ordered. Now let's run this program. So first choice, let me enter something invalid. So I enter 5. This properly validates it. It checked here the loop. It's none of these 4 choices. So this is true. It is not 1, not 2, not 3, not 0. So it enters the loop, outputs this prompt. Now I can enter something else again. Let me try -2. So -2, it read it into the choice variable. It's a while loop, so it goes back, checks the condition again. It's none of these 4 choices, so enters it a second time. And let's enter here 3. 3 is valid, so it stops the while loop. It goes to the switch statement, matches the choice to the number, to the integer literal 3, and enters the case here. This case outputs, here's your pizza, then it's done, and it says goodbye. Now let's try this one more time with 0. So I can enter a choice. Here I enter 0, and we can see if 0 is entered, this condition is false. Is true, it is one of the valid choices. So it skips the loop, it checks the switch case, it doesn't match any of the cases, so it just continues the program after the switch statement and then outputs goodbye. So this works so far. The next thing that we need to tackle is repeating the program until 0 is entered. So I'll change this so there's one more fix I do here, that we just have a single line. And now, how can we repeat the program? So we know when we need to repeat something, we need a while loop, or a do loop, or a for loop. While loop or do loop are good in these situations, since we do not know how many times we want to repeat it. It could be a single time, it could be 100 times, we just don't know. There's no counter, no range that is defined for it. So in this case, we should use a while loop or do loop. So I'm just going to use a do loop in this case. A do loop because I want to repeat all of this here, the highlighted part, at least once. So this is the part that I wrap inside a loop. And the reason why I choose a do loop is I want to run it once, but then after each run, I want to check if 0 has been entered or not. If 0 was entered, I quit the program. I could also do it obviously with a while loop, but I prefer a do loop since I mentioned I want to run it once. Now, what I will check here is I want to repeat the program as long as option is not 0. I don't have option, I call it choice. So as long as choice is not 0. Now, this gives me an error. It says choice cannot be resolved to a variable. The reason for this is that now choice is defined inside this loop block. So it doesn't exist outside of this block. What I have to do instead now is declare it up here and then just change this to an assignment. So I have the variable up here. I know this runs at least once, so it will assign something. And by the time I reach the condition, it has the last choice that was assigned, either here, or if something invalid was entered, it would assign the valid one here. And that should be it. So let's run this program. So we have enter a choice. And let's enter something invalid. So this prompts, this checked the loop, it entered it, invalid. I enter something, let's say 2. So it outputted in the switch case, here's your sandwich. Now it went back after the switch statement, so there's no other code, so it goes, checks the condition. What was the choice? Was it anything other than 0? Yes, in this case I entered 2, so it goes and repeats the program. It prompts for choice, reads in a new choice, let's say 1. It validates it, 1 is one of the valid options, so it doesn't prompt for a new input. It checks, uses the switch statement to check which option was ordered. It was option 1, so it enters case 1 here, outputs here's your salad, goes back after the switch statement, nothing else, and checks the choice again. Now it goes back, prompts for a new choice, and here I enter 0. And then 0 is a valid option, so it doesn't reprompt. It checks one of the choices here. 0 is not there, so nothing to do. It now checks the overall loop, the outside loop here. Choice is 0, so this condition now is false. And so it stops this do loop and then continues the program afterwards. This just outputs goodbye, and now the program is done. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.